get good at making decisions,
Mhm.
making the right decision. And of course, for me to get better at that, I had to make all the wrong ones, and so I did that. I did it, and I
Yeah.
knew I was doing it. I knew that when I was doing it, it was the wrong one, but it was for me to learn a lesson.
From the mountain to the sea. That's why you find me, find me.
Welcome to the Musician Secrets podcast. Today, I have the one and only amazing Ashton Nicolas with me. He's a singer, songwriter, producer, entrepreneur, everything you can think of. He's doing it. Welcome.
Aloha mai kako, kumusta kayo, amen. Alise, thank you so much for having me today. I'm so excited to be here. I really am.
Thank you for being on here. I feel so honored because you are from the place I was born, and no one believes me when I tell them that I was born on Oahu, Hawaii. And I think we can kind of relate because that's where you're coming from right now, right?
Yes, totally. I'm here in Kaimuki, Oahu, and I was born and raised here. A couple of valleys over in Kalihi. So the island life is definitely something that we both love.
Oh, every time I want to go back, I always say it's like home to me. So every time I want to go back home, something always comes in between. Like ask everyone, ask all my friends. They all knew I wanted to go back to Hawaii. And every time I wanted to go, like something came in between. And so I kind of end up in the.
There's just like this gravitational pull that's just like knows you're so far away, and it's just like, come back.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'm still not giving up on it. So at one point I at least want to go back and live there for a couple of years and just,
In due time, in due
yeah,
time.
yeah. So it'll all happen. But everyone that comes on here, I just have a very easy question to start with. Just introduce yourself for people that don't know who you are, because you have a very interesting story, I think, and it's quite a journey. So, like, from take us back to the very beginning. What got you into music, into songwriting, and now into like the production and the business side as well, which I think is very interesting that nobody really talks about. Just take
True.
us on your journey.
Right on. Well, first of all, mahalo again for having me here. I'm super honored. Um, just taking it back, huh?
Yeah.
I guess for me, it started in like elementary school because mostly I was a sporty kid. I did a lot of like all the sports:
Same,
basketball,
yeah.
football, volleyball, baseball. Starting in like the first, second grade, but then it wasn't until fourth or fifth grade when instruments started to be introduced to me. So for music class, right, they provided us with the recorder and an ukulele. So the
Nice.
recorder and the ukulele were my first instruments. Obviously, recorder is like pretty fun one for the parents,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the ukulele is what I naturally gravitated towards,
Yeah.
and I just kind of I was pretty good. I remember helping my music teacher like help everyone tune their ukuleles and just learning like the hard songs first, and I took a couple lessons. It didn't work out, but I remember just taking it everywhere. I had it um before school, after school, during school, at practice. I bring it to the beach, to the
Yeah.
movie, and just I'd have my ukulele with me everywhere, and I'd just be jamming with my friends everywhere we went. Um, and
Nice.
so yeah, I kind of just started off, jamming songs that I heard on the radio here in Hawaii,
Yeah.
local songs. Um, Hawaii plays a lot of like the roots reggae from Jamaica, and like so I had a lot of different types of influences, but I remember just growing up learning how to play the ukulele. I would just learn like the difficult songs first. I remember my first handful of like songs that I learned was Furley's, well, what else? The While My Ukulele Gently Weeps. There's a version that Jake Shimabukuro, ukulele virtuoso out here, he played it, and I remember being like fifth, sixth grade, like looking at watching that YouTube video and like playing it, pausing it, trying to find the finger picking for the
Yeah,
whole song, and
yeah.
like, oh man, I remember just busting it out at school in like seventh grade, and everyone's like, "How do you do that?" But
Yeah, YouTube is a great place to go. Yeah, for sure.
oh, for sure. YouTube University ever since.
Yeah.
But besides YouTube, I did have a cousin and an uncle that you know, they jammed at the family parties and stuff like that, and they would hand me the ukulele and see what would happen, and so they really kind of fostered me and showed me some of the ropes on that until I was able to jam on my own.
Mm,
Um, and then in high school, as a freshman, I played beginning band. I played the saxophone.
mm. No
So
way.
I
That's
love the
so
saxophone.
cool.
There wasn't any other instrument I would have wanted to play
Yeah.
besides the saxophone. But I remember like taking the test right at the beginning of the school year, and whoever got like the highest grade, they got first dibs on the instruments. So I remember like studying so hard, like the different scales and things like that, and the theory, just so because I wanted to play the saxophone so bad. I wasn't gonna take any other instrument, and sure
Yeah.
enough, I got it. So I was stoked. Um,
Yeah.
so it was fun to play in beginning band. Around the same time, I taught myself how to um, play the guitar.
Mhm.
So my grandma just got me a guitar. I think it was for Christmas or something, and I started learning the guitar. And all that while, I've been like interested in like songwriting and kind
Mm.
of just like poetry. Poetry for me started in like first second grade. I remember my first grade teacher telling me like, "Oh, I remember when you used to like visiting as a seventh grader, going back to the school, or as a high schooler, I mean, going back to to my elementary school and seeing my first grade teacher after all those years." And she's like, "Oh, I remember when you used to like write those love poems to me, and I used to just write any kind of stuff." And so I can remember all my cheesy songs throughout like elementary school and high school, and so I didn't really consider music as a career,
Mm,
not until like I left Hawaii, honestly, because it was mostly just what I love to do and just what I knew how to do.
mm.
um and so when I left Hawaii, I after I graduated, I moved to Washington State for a couple years.
Oh, wow.
And of course, I brought my ukulele with me
Yeah.
and kind of just was up there experiencing a different climate, a different place in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Very different than Hawaii for sure.
yeah, so that was the point. Though. I had some family up there though, so and a lot of locals tend to like stick around the west coast of the
Okay.
continent. So it was a good place for me to kind of start off, yeah.
Mhm.
Um but I was kind of out of my comfort zone. Music wasn't I didn't really foster my musicianship out there. I was just still playing ukulele, kind of just figuring out what I wanted to do. Actually, I take that back. I first went to Washington for school. I went to a college kind of near Seattle, and it was for audio engineering. Um,
Oh, okay.
but that college was just like so not for me. I was just over school, I think. I was not into school. Like I was excited for the dorming experience,
Yeah.
but it didn't turn out to be what I thought it was gonna be, what I made it out in my mind to be.
Yeah.
But it was still fun, and that's when I ended up kind of just moving out from the college. I went to like 6 months of college, and I was like, nah. And then I moved in with my friend down South Washington, and we kind of just lived it up, experienced the cold weather together.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and then for both of those winters, right? Came back to visit for a winter break. Came back home just because it was cold and I miss
Yeah.
home. Um, But after the 2 years, I think it was that second winter break back here visiting or coming back from Washington is when I actually decided to move to Puerto Rico.
Oh,
And
nice.
I ended up moving to the Caribbean because I was like, I don't want to keep living in the cold. I don't want to
Yeah.
necessarily also go back home so soon because, I had
Yeah.
visited over those 2 winter breaks. And so, yeah, this opportunity just came up for me and just I bought a one-way ticket to Puerto Rico and lived there for 2 years. And that's when I really kind of honed in my
Yeah.
musicality and got introduced to like the stage
Mhm.
and played in a band. That's a whole like I probably take up the whole podcast talking about that
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
But long story short, like I moved there on a one-way ticket with no money, I barely knew Spanish.
Yeah.
Um and I just kind of winged it. I went from like looking for places on the beach to crash at to towards the end of my stay there. I had met these brothers who were also from Hawaii. They were living out there, and we ended
Oh,
up
cool.
starting our own band, right? With a Puerto Rican drummer.
Yeah.
And yeah, shout out to Ike and and Billy and Bata, man. We are Hermanos del Mar, right? So we play like some poppy reggae
Yeah.
mainstream songs for the people down over there. But it was a lot of fun. Like in the day, in the nighttime, we were playing gigs or
Yeah.
playing shows around the island. We got to tour like the whole island. Shout out to the Dub Assassins too. They really put me on. The Predator Dub Assassins. They really put me on to my kind of first tour experience. They came. They're
Nice.
a reggae band from New Jersey, and my good brother Billy played keys for them,
Mhm.
and so they kind of brought me on to that kind of tour experience. So anyway, so music was going on during the nighttime, surfing of course, and just experiencing the culture over there. But in the daytime, I was a tour guide.
Yeah.
I was an ATV tour guide,
Oh,
and
oh,
so
ATVs. I love
yeah, it was
ATVs.
so
Dang.
fun. One of my
Oh my
favorite jobs I've
gosh.
ever had. But
Yeah.
we just take a ATV out into the national rainforest out there, El Junque rainforest,
Cool.
and the 2 hour tours we would jump in the river for like half an hour and just like yeah, and then so from there I would go surf after that, and then I would have a show like right on that same beach.
Mhm.
um yeah, it was crazy. And then I don't know, I just had some intuition to move back home. I was homesick after being away for like 2.5 years, 3 years. um and fortunately I did, because like 3 4 months after that Hurricane Maria hit, and it was just like
Right.
crazy timing. Luckily all the connections I made were okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, coming back home was like, after you travel the world, you kind of have a different look on your worldview and
Yeah.
perspective, and you
For
learn a
sure.
lot about yourself.
Yeah.
And so coming back to the place where I was, born and raised,
Yeah.
for me, I got introduced to like the music industry one, but like that was kind of a slow start. But I was mostly interested in like the culture that I didn't learn growing up out here, because
Mhm.
I went to private school. I went to a Catholic school kind of my whole ever since kindergarten through like that college in Washington I was telling you about.
Yeah.
But I got to connect with the Hawaiian culture and Hawaiian people and learn the true history that we didn't get to learn growing up.
I
um
love that. Yeah.
yeah, that was
I think it's
straight
so
up kind of
important.
omitted.
Yeah.
But all the while, I'm learning all this culture. I'm making the connections. um my sister uh is a bartender in Chinatown, and so that was kind of my first show coming back home. I would play
Yeah.
in Chinatown like every Saturday night, like
Nice.
super late night for all like that crowd.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's kind of just how I started off, and from there I was really intentional with like my connections and
Yeah,
networking and putting myself out there, meeting the right people, and just showing face at at the different shows,
yeah, that's
and
important.
really understanding um how big of an impact like making those connections are, networking
Yeah.
really
100%.
is. And so yeah, like I kind of just did that for the past few years since I've been back home,
Yeah.
and I just released music, and I'm relaunching my business. And I guess I forgot to mention like a few other things. Like I entered business school. There's a really good program out here in Hawaii. That's
Internet, right?
the only program in Hawaii
Yeah.
that gives degrees out for engineering and
Uh-huh.
business. So yeah, I can like give myself a break from talking real quick. Sorry, I can ramble on about it,
Yeah.
but I guess that's just it in a nutshell. And
Wow.
here we are.
Dang, that's quite a journey. I didn't know about that you actually went to like Washington State and then went to like
Yeah.
what, Puerto Rico and stuff. Like I didn't
Yep.
know about that. So I think it's very important because to actually leave home for a while. Like if you
Totally.
go to a different country, even better. Like I went to England, right? I studied music and I went to England to do that.
Oh,
I was
nice.
like, peace out, everyone. Like, I'm going to England now. I got accepted there. And so I'm just like, because, uh, and I was there for a couple of years. So I know what it's like to like leave
Hmm.
home. I had no friends there. I had no family there. The culture
Yeah.
is completely different. At least the language wasn't too different. It still
Yeah.
has its kind of own little difficulties. But,
Totally.
I didn't have to learn a complete new language for that.
Mm-hmm.
But I know what that feels like when I just followed my passion for music. I'm like, you know what, screw this, like I need to go there. And it's great what the doors open and you get to learn so much and you just get to grow, like you said, as a person. You get to know yourself better, you get to know your environment better, and I got to appreciate what I had at home, right? Like I think
Exactly.
you can agree with that, where you're like, oh my gosh,
Totally.
I had no idea. Like I felt like a really ungrateful little brat. Like I'm just like, dang, like I didn't appreciate this, I didn't appreciate that, I didn't, because when you always live there, it's normal, right?
Yeah. It's just your life.
Yeah. So I would, like, if I can give anyone advice, I'd be like, go somewhere else. If you've been living at home your entire life, go and just doesn't have to be
Leave.
forever, but at least for
Get out of
a
here.
year or two. Yeah, get out of here. Like for a couple of years, just go somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's my mom told me like there's no growth in your comfort zone and no comfort in your growth zone. So if you're feeling
Oh, I
comfortable,
like that.
you're doing something right. So
Yeah, exactly. I
doing
love
that.
that. I love that. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's one thing I would definitely also advise someone to do is get out of your comfort zone by traveling,
yeah,
because
for sure.
there's more to life than just where you are, and there's a whole world out there to be explored. I think the other quote was like the world is like your book, and if you read one page, it's just like staying in your
Yeah,
hometown for the whole time.
yeah.
There's a whole book you got to read
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good
or
analogy.
write.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
write it, it's,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, that's very important. I think, I mean, for me, it was super helpful just because I got to just kind of leave and have this own like music connection. And, it is really important. The connections are crucial. Um,
Yeah.
I think
Totally.
so. I 100% agree to what you said to all of that. For sure. Um, for you're doing so many different things. So like you said, you kind of, summed it up really quick, but you have your business called Creative Natives, which is amazing.
Thank you.
What
Thank
you're
you.
doing there. There's so many. Because I looked up all the stuff that you're basically providing there, and from music production to music publishing to artist development, which includes like the web design, the electronic press kit, you do even give like ukulele lessons, the guitar
Yeah.
lesson. You do music business startup consultation, photos and videos, like all of that stuff. how in the world do you like keep up with, like, how do you do it all?
Oh man. I just always thought of not thought of myself. I just was like a jack of all trades, I guess. Like I played all of these sports, but
Yeah.
I never really like excelled in one in particular. So I
Yeah.
think that just translated over to like music and going into school for music business. It's just like there's all these things that I really like doing. Like I used to be that guy, like building MySpace websites and like
Yeah.
Tumblr accounts and like being really into it, and like making YouTube videos and posting YouTube videos back in like sixth grade,
Yeah.
so video editing is also something I love, the tediousness of like the editing process and all that. And so from that comes why I'm so into like the engineering aspect.
Mm,
And I was real intentional with that too, because this program that I'm in, which is it is the Mele program.
mm,
Mele is music in Hawaiian, but
yeah.
it's an acronym for music entertainment and learning music and entertainment learning experiences. And so they offer two different degrees, one being audio engineering and the other being music business.
Yeah.
And so I chose music business because I thought like I could, since I'm already into it, I could learn audio engineering and production on my own just through
Mhm.
like watching my friends do it and referencing their songs, and YouTube, of course. I have a lot
Yeah.
of like YouTube channels that I try and learn from, as opposed to doing it backwards, right?
Yeah.
Going to school for engineering and then like learning the business side through life experience. I think like that that's a risk that I wanted to like not take.
Yeah.
Um, and so and going to school for it is definitely something for me to fall back on, because I for the longest time I was just kind of jamming music, doing live shows and writing music, but never really released anything all that while, up until my first single. um so I really wanted to give myself a chance in the industry. I don't have, especially in Hawaii, more often than not, you you're born into like a musical legacy.
Mhm.
um but it was different for me, and I feel like going into music business and learning all of that kind of just helped me out and kind of laid the foundation for me, because at the end of the day it's all about who you know, right? And so that's ultimately why I joined that program, was to make the connections
Yep.
and learn the content, correct, the proper content,
Mhm.
and be able to set myself up correctly, and
Mhm.
provide that for other up and coming musicians. That was a big thing for creative natives,
Yeah.
is I really want to support my friends and local
Mhm.
black, indigenous people of color,
Mhm.
kind of just however I can. I know obviously I'm still learning, I'm still in school, but I can offer what I have learned and what I've
Yeah.
experienced. And all of that just so happens to be a long list of these things.
Yeah. 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 It's because it's what I've been. That's like, it took me a long time to realize what you already know. Like I went like I I didn't go to England for the degree, because at the end of the day people like your music or they don't. I
Right.
went there to get the connections, to get the experience, because right, that's what music is all about, is having those connections, knowing the people, and just surrounding yourself with people that have the same goals, that have the same ambitions, that have, they're not gonna judge you for trying to be a musician. I don't know if you get that a lot, but I got that a lot. I live in a small town, and if you tell people you're a musician or I want to do music, they're like, but why? Like, that it's not a real
Yeah.
job. And so many
Yeah.
people ask me like, what are you gonna do with a music degree? I'm like, why does everyone keep asking me that? Like, dude, chill,
Just be
uh,
like, you'll see. Just
you'll
wait.
see. Yeah, just watch me, but it's So once I finished my degree, I'm like, okay, cool. I got all the tools to be a great musician. I know how to do songwriting and all that stuff. And then I'm like, dang, like how I'm gonna make music off of that. Like nobody teaches you. We did have like music business, but it doesn't. I think for me it was like so far back. Like they
Mm,
taught you like the tools that the of like the old music industry, but now through the
yeah,
internet,
so different,
everything's changing so
so
quickly.
different.
I had no ideas about funnels, about music marketing, and that there's a warm and a cold audience, and like that there are different levels of fans, and like a fan is the same. I'm like, no, like you have like all
Yeah.
that stuff. I don't want to get too deep into marketing, but I had to take the long route, and that's what I'm teaching myself for the last like over 2 years now, is like the music business and marketing side of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that for some reason as musicians, we're so disconnected. When you see like, oh, I'm a musician, you don't see yourself also as a business. And that
Yeah.
was like my first aha moment, is like, dude, like if I'm a musician, I'm running a business, right? Because if
Yeah.
as long as you're making, if you want to make money, your business. Doesn't matter what
Totally.
you're doing, what you're selling, if it's music or if it's cookies or if it's a book or if it's shoes, I don't care. As long as you're trying to make money, you're a business. And I
Yeah.
didn't connect in my brain. I did not connect the two. So you going out and actually, studying it the right way, which I wish I would have done. Um, that's already like you're already like 100 steps in front of everyone else.
Yeah. Um, totally. I totally agree with that. I also just find myself too sometimes like being in the midst of all this school and you know hectic times. I find myself not being able to find the time to like really work on like my own
Mm,
music. Ultimately that's like
yeah,
why I got into it, and I always gotta like remind myself every so often to like just grab the ukulele and just jam for a second, or
mhm,
just go out, bring my guitar, and just like not have to feel like I need to record it
mhm.
or like
Yeah,
market it, or you know what I mean.
yeah.
And
Just
just
for fun, just for fun, just
yeah.
for you. Sometimes you forget it.
But at the same time I'm like doing all the other things, I'm like,
Yeah,
and I'm having fun, like,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and doing the marketing and like doing the engineering and productions and learning, going through all the different millions of tutorials
yeah,
of just everything. I'm really geeking out on it right now, especially like the business side of it. And
yeah.
so, I definitely can talk about that stuff for a while.
Yeah. Oh my God, get me started on music marketing, and I won't shut up. Because I mean, the more I'm learning about marketing and stuff, the more I'm enjoying it because it's so
Yeah,
creative. And marketing is so creative, and if you, especially music marketing, is so a own thing in itself.
totally.
Um, but yeah, we'll not get into that right now. But what
But all of those things though, sorry to cut you off, but like
you
all
know,
of those things kind of transcend music itself. Like that's why I
yeah.
love going into music business school, because I'm not only learning about music business in particular. This is like business gems that I can just, and concepts that I can just use for other
And period, yeah.
endeavors. Yeah. So
Yeah, no doubt. Like there are some just universal stuff. Like
totally. Yeah.
like I said, as long as you're making money, there are just some just bases that you need to cover,
Mm-hmm.
and that's like 80% is the normal, like everyone
Yeah.
needs to learn, and then
And
the
then there's like the
last
music. Yeah.
exactly, and then the last 20% is like, okay, how do I tweak that to fit it my niche? So whatever that
Mm-hmm.
is. So is it music? Is it the shoes? Are you selling whatever you're selling? And that's what a question that I get a lot is like, but how do I apply it to music? It's like, well, no, learn the basics first, the 80%, and then we can tweak it so it fits the music.
The
And
foundation. Yeah.
yeah, and then everyone wants to jump to the last 20%. I'm like, no, here's the foundation. Go learn this
Yeah.
first. So but what was one of your aha moments where something like in your brain, maybe at class or something, you watched a YouTube video or something, where you're like, wow, I had no idea, like this changes everything. Was there a moment like that at all, maybe? You're
Like
like, wow.
for what in particular? Just like
Let's say music business, because that mine
okay.
aha moment was like, oh my gosh, I need to learn music business
Right, okay,
to
yeah,
learn
yeah.
music, right? So that was like my aha moment.
Um I think my aha moment kind of began like back in Washington when I decided to move to Puerto Rico.
Mm-hmm.
Um my big aha moment was just really believing and knowing in in the power of like connections and knowing that you have an influence in the type of connections you have and then relationships you have in your life
Mm-hmm.
just by like um like picking and choosing wisely, like
Mm-hmm.
who who you give your time to,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day that's like the most valuable thing is time, right? Like why are we making
Yeah.
all this money so that we ultimately can have some form of time with something or with someone or doing something.
Mm-hmm.
um and so I think that was my biggest aha moment, was just knowing, just just being able to navigate um networking, just yeah, connecting and just really taking that to heart when people say like it's all about who you know, it's all about who you know. Like that's so true, because that's just what we do as humans innately.
Yeah.
We just love to
Yeah.
connect with each other.
Mhm.
um and so when I moved to Puerto Rico, I really had that as an intention in my mind, was like, I went through all the hard times, of course, like all that BS, of course, is inevitable. And
Yeah.
knowing that it's coming, for
Yeah.
me at least, I just have that as my cushion, not
Mhm.
cushion, but you know what I mean? Just like,
Yeah.
I know it's coming. So when it
Not
does
gonna
come, I'm not
surprise
going to
you.
trip out. I'm not going
Yeah.
to, yeah, it's not going to surprise me,
Mhm.
but I'm also going to get good at making decisions,
Mhm.
making the right decision. And of course, for me to get better at that, I had to make all the wrong ones. And so I did that. I did it, and I
Yeah.
knew I was doing it. I knew that when I was doing it, it was the wrong one, but it was for me to learn a lesson.
Yeah.
And so I brought that mindset and way of thinking with me back to Hawaii, and kind of just was patient with it.
Yeah.
And like I said, I crossed all my T's, dotted all my I's, and just
Yeah.
put myself in all the right places, met the right people,
Yeah.
and still doing it. The work's never over. You can always I love like just connecting with people and meeting people too. So you got to make it happen even throughout the midst of a pandemic, right?
Yeah.
So I really love that you're doing this.
Yeah. This is how the podcast was born, is through the
Yeah.
pandemic, because I was so sick and tired of people telling me you're not allowed to gig, you're not allowed to do any live performance, you're not allowed, you're not. I'm like, okay, you know what? Then shut up, leave me alone. I'm gonna do something that I can do, and I'm gonna talk with people that are in the same situation as I am. We're just gonna geek out about music, and whoever wants to listen can listen, and who
Love
doesn't
it.
have to. So
Love
yeah,
it.
so that you kind of have to adapt. And I think I love what you just said about kind of making the wrong decisions
Mhm.
sometimes, and I got to learn that failure is actually something positive. And so many people see like failure as something negative. Oh no, I failed. Like, no, it's just another stepping stone to where you want to go. Right now you know what not
Yeah.
to do. You're like, I've tried that,
Yeah.
didn't work out, let's do this. And then you're like, okay, that didn't
Yep.
that's entrepreneurship, to be honest. Like, really,
Exactly.
like just trying out things, being okay, this didn't work, let's try that. Okay, nope, yes, let's do, okay, kind of the right direction. Nope, didn't work out. So it's just always kind of, he did. Oh, what's his name? Why is this skipping out? Who invented the light bulb? Was Thomas Edison. He
Edison.
said, um, I didn't, because they're like, oh, how does it feel like that uh you failed like 1,000 times? He's like, no, there were 1,000 steps for me to invent the light bulb. And I thought it
I
was so
see.
interesting how he like flipped it. He's like, no, if I wouldn't have failed and tried those thousand,
I wouldn't have been so successful.
I wouldn't have invented the light bulb. So I'm like, you
Did you
know,
know Thomas Edison was a homie to the Hawaiians?
really?
He was real close with King Kalakaua,
Oh,
who
okay.
was the last king of Hawaii,
Yeah,
which is why the Iolani Palace in downtown
yeah.
had electricity and light bulbs before the White
Anyone
House
else?
ever did.
Dang, that's a
Yeah,
cool.
so Honolulu and Hawaii was all lit up before like
Anyone else?
DC.
Papa,
Yeah, King
how?
Kalakaua. He was definitely like a worldly guy making the connections
Yeah, yeah,
out in international. That's just traveling, and it's
yeah.
what I want to do too.
Yeah, if just put yourself out there. I think like this is what I started the podcast just to get to know people, but it's just snowballing into something where I'm just like, this is like its own thing now. Like the connections I get to make and the people I get to meet. I would have never, met you or everyone else that I've had in the
Mm,
podcast if it wasn't for this. And
totally.
connections are just so, so important. And everyone's like, oh, it's not what you know, it's who you know. I'm like, yeah, yeah. And then I'm like, well, yeah, actually, right. First I was kind of mad about it, and then I'm like,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that actually is true. But use it as your advantage. I always saw it as something negative. I'm like, okay, cool. If it's all about connecting, then I need to get myself out there. I need to reach
Yep.
out to people. I need to be more approachable, not be like, oh, I'm not collaborating. It's all me. And it's all, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's why I'm always so happy when people want to just talk to me and be on the podcast and talk about their experiences and share them. I think once we like share our stories and share our experiences, now I get to learn something from that, and hopefully people that are listening to that can learn from that, be like, oh cool, Ashton did that worked out, I'm going to try that too, or this didn't work out. And um
It's
so
just a great way for us to like, as musicians support each other, and
yes,
I love that everyone's getting into using this platform
yeah.
um because yeah, like I only recently started listening to podcasts, but it's such a if like time efficient way
Mhm.
to learn information, and when you're because people are just so busy nowadays, right?
Mhm.
um so yeah, just mahalo, thank you for providing this platform, and
Yeah.
I love it.
Anytime. Yeah, I just want to talk about your single real quick, Find Me,
Okay.
because it's dang such good vibes. Just just really that's what I would imagine, you would sound like. It sounds weird, but you kind of have to see someone like, okay, this is maybe it's just a weird thing I do, but you're like
No,
kind
no,
of
no, I
getting
got
like
you.
from the vibes, you're kind of this is where what they would sound like. And I listened to the song "Find Me," and I'm like, yeah, that's cool.
Right
I'm
on. No, I
yeah,
know what you mean, though. I know what you mean.
like in a non-weird way. But I kind of I listened to an interview where you kind of talked about how it what inspired you and where you wrote it. I think that was really cool. Hopefully you won't feel like a broken record, but
No.
how did that happen? How did that song come together?
No, no, I love it. That song I wrote on a hike with a
Yeah.
friend, my friend Micah. We ended up hiking up to the mountain. It's a pretty fun hike. I love this hike. It's Manoa, so like Manoa is like a pretty touristy popular trail, but then you can hike like it's like a it's a popular trail, but the waterfall is beautiful. It's like I don't know, 80 feet high,
Mm-hmm.
but you can climb up the side of it. Like
Nice.
it's totally vertical, just like you're climbing tree roots and rocks, like completely rock climbing.
Yeah.
And then you get to the top, so sketchy. Get to the top, and there's just another waterfall,
Yeah.
with a pool above the 80-foot one that everyone is like taking pictures of.
Yeah. You're
And
like,
so
this is
from
the best
that
part. Yeah.
waterfall, I'm like sitting underneath the waterfall in the back of the pool, and then there's like the 80-foot drop. But then you see, like in the back of the pool, you see like through the valley, and then Honolulu town is just right there. It's the
Oh,
craziest hike. It's beautiful.
nice.
Um, but anyway, I wrote the song on that hike, and yeah, it was just a melody I think that popped in my head, and kind of that phrase "find me" just kind
Mhm.
of came from like,
Very fun.
oh, I'm always out here like
Yeah,
hiking and surfing and out somewhere doing something.
yeah,
So I guess that's where it came from. Just, a lot of music in Hawaii is definitely inspired directly from where we live,
mm,
and the things we do in this place, which is like, nature based, aina based
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. It's so beautiful. Like, how can you not be inspired when you're there? Like,
Yeah.
it's just made for you to write songs. You're just like, yeah, let's
Yeah.
get a ukulele, let's just get the guitar, whatever and just kind of vibe out because it's. I just love it. I'm general more of like the countryside, like nature person. Like, I could not
Mhm.
live in a city for just a couple of years where I was studying in Birmingham. Like, dang, it's too busy, everything's moving too
Yeah.
fast, the people are too hectic, and I need this, I need that, I need that, and I need it like yesterday. I'm like, okay, like out in the countryside, everyone's just so much more relaxed, and you're just kind of know it's really important. I feel like you're just like, you know what, as long as I have a roof over my head, food, and my family, like I'm good. Like,
Yeah, for sure. Don't get me wrong, like Honolulu too, it definitely gets like that.
oh yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but
yeah,
what I love about living on just the islands in general is you're not too far from, like, that hike from the busy streets of town is probably like 12 minutes away.
yeah,
Which is what I love about living on Oahu, is like, get town, you get like all the shows, and you know all the different aspects of that, but then you can just go right out to the country,
yeah.
in nature, not too far away.
Mm. That's I think that's very unique to Oahu is because you have Honolulu, that's like the city, but then you have like the
Mm-hmm.
North Shore and stuff where
Totally, yeah.
it's where you have more of the beaches and and stuff like that. So it's kind of like the all around island, I would say. Like,
The gathering place is the
yeah,
nickname. The gathering
yeah, there we
place.
go, gathering pace. Yeah, because like
Yeah.
I love Kauai, but because that's more like really nature and like jungle and stuff,
Yeah.
right? And every island is so different and unique. You have like the big
Yeah.
island that's very different, like the volcanoes and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But Oahu has just a special place in my heart for obvious reasons.
Same. Yeah.
Being
Same.
a little biased here. um, but I have a closing question that I like to ask everyone because it's so different for everyone, but I
Okay.
guess it's a question that everyone asks is what makes a good song.
Ooh, I like that one.
Uh,
What makes a good song? Hmm. Let me ponder on that for a second.
take your
Um,
time. It's probably one of the harder questions.
it is a hard one because a good song can be anything for any particular person.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm gonna take it in the context of what makes a good song to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's a good song for me? And for me, I think a good song is a super catchy hook. Um, Not only a super catchy hook or chorus, but a super catchy hook or chorus that has like the meanest, most smoothest complementary either harmonies,
Mm-hmm. Oh.
or yeah, just harmonies in the form of like vocals or horns.
Uh-huh.
So if there's like this just super catchy hook or chorus that's like the lyrics, the lyrical content is good and memorable, and then there's like the complementary harmonies, either vocals or horns, that's what I love. um and then mostly for me, I think lyrical content is important,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean the musicality of course is important as well, but and that ultimately sets the tone and the feeling of the song, but
Mm,
the lyrical content and the words of a song really is powerful because
yeah.
ultimately each person wants to send out a certain type of message.
Mhm,
And to me, I love to listen to like conscious music, world
mhm,
music,
yeah.
positive music, reggae music.
Yeah.
And so I think that's, to me, that's what makes a good song. It's like a really good catchy hook and obviously wicked instrumentals
Mm,
with a with the execution and delivery of good lyrical content.
yeah. Awesome. I agree 100%. You can still pick and choose what you want to listen to. I think a lot of people is kind of let it happen. It's like, oh yeah, it's on the radio. I'm like, so you can switch
True
the
that.
channel, you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
turn it
yeah.
off, you can put on your playlist. You don't have to
Yeah.
like, listen to that. So be more proactive. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, totally. I solely believe in like who you hang around with, what you listen to, the bands you listen to, the podcasts you listen to, definitely like make up at least a little bit of like who you are, or at least some, who you want to become like
Mhm.
or be inspired by. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Now, I believe if you can get a pretty good idea if you look at someone's top 20 songs playlist. I can probably tell you quite accurate who you are and what kind of person you are. I think
Yeah. I like that idea. Yeah.
it makes, I think, it does make a huge difference. It's just like the books you're reading, the Netflix shows you watch,
Yeah.
the stuff you're listening to, the people you're surrounding yourself with. I think it shows very clearly who you will become as a person, right? They always say like you're the average of the four people around you. So
Yeah, that's
you're
the one.
you're going to become the fifth, right? So if you're going to be around other musicians, you're going to be the fifth musician. If you're going to
Yeah.
be around other whatnot, then you're going to become that as well. So I think
Yeah.
that's very fitting. But yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Really like mahalo
Yeah.
for, chatting with me and, being on here. I feel so honored,
That was
that
fun.
you wanted to be on here. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm not just saying that. I really mean it and just admire what you're doing like with creative natives and it's so cool. Like we're here to like help and support each other. So that you actually like are building that platform as well to like help others is just really cool.
Yeah, mahalo. Thank you
So,
so much.
yeah,
I definitely want to grow it and get into the groove of things, which I will be these next few months until I relaunch. So definitely keep an eye out for that. I'll
yeah,
be relaunching Creative Natives in the summer of this summer,
yeah.
in June. So I'll have a lot of things lined up and a lot of plans, and hopefully, I can make some time for music as well,
Yeah.
and drop
Oh,
some more music.
nice. I'm excited. I love that. Keep me posted on the process and everything.
Oh,
Because
guarantee.
I want to support you as much as I can with anything you're doing. Because I just love your vision. I love where your drive and where you want to go, and just the energy that you bring to the table. So, where can people find you? Where can people check you out? Where can they find
Find
you?
me? Find me?
Yeah, yeah, of course. Where can they? Yeah,
um
find you. That was
No,
yeah.
it's been like a running joke, trust me, this whole time.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, you can find me on my website, www.creativenativeshi.com. That's creativenativeshi.com. We're also on Instagram and Facebook at Creative Natives High. Um and yeah, subscribe to the email. I think that's the best thing that you guys can help out with right now is subscribe to my email list so that when relaunch comes around in summertime, you'll get all the updates and all of the updates on what's to come.
Mm, perfect. I'll link everything up below as well. So yeah, just click anything down below so people will have no trouble finding you.
Yeah. Oh, and then my personal one is
Yeah.
at Ashton Nicolas Live for my music stuff. So at Ashton Nicolas Live on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook too. So right on, at least mahalo. Thank you so much again. This was a lot of fun actually for me to do. So I'm excited.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, just having from one musician to another, just having a chat, learning from each other, and sharing experiences. So I appreciate being able to just be open and talk to
Yeah,
me, us.
can't wait.
So thank you so much, mahalo for being on here.
Of course.
Thank you for listening to the Musician Secrets podcast. I'm your host, Alise Koa. I hope you got to learn something new about producing or songwriting or mental health when it comes to making music, the fears that most musicians have when making music. So everything that's behind the scenes, behind making music, you will learn it here because I'm basically talking to anyone that makes music all around the world. So I have a great privilege to learn all of that, and I can't wait to share it with you all. So follow this podcast if you enjoyed what you heard today, and go and share it with somebody that you think could enjoy this episode as well, benefit and learn from it. And as always, there's more information at alisekoa.com/podcast. Talk to you soon. Bye.
That's why you find me, find me. That's why you find me. From the